Next, we're going to look at how to go about whitening teeth. So let's go down and we're going to select whiten.jpg. You'll see that this smile leaves a little bit to be desired. The first thing we're going to do is duplicate the background. And you can go about whitening teeth a couple of different ways. You could go in, make a selection of the teeth, try to get just the teeth, and then you could feather your selection, so go select and either modify or refine edge, either one will work. Let's look at the modify feather. I could feather this by a half a pixel. That's going to go in and soften the edges and make this a more believable effect instead of having such a hard edge. So 0.5 on my feather selection, select OK. And then what I could do is I can go in and I can paint white onto my selection here. Make sure I have my brush selected, and I can reduce the opacity of the brush if I want. And so you can see how it's nice and easy. And I'm not doing different brush strokes. I haven't lifted my finger or my stylus at all. This is all one brush stroke, because I don't want to go over different areas multiple different times. And so this is just painting white at a reduced opacity. Now I could reduce the opacity of that layer, deselect, and you can see the before and after. And that works. We can see I have some work to do here on my selection where it got on the gums a little bit. I'm going to go back to before my selection. And what you're going to need to do for 10D is this technique. So make sure you've duplicated your background layer. Alright, so the first thing you're going to do now is you're going to add a fill layer. So we're going to go solid color down here in the layers panel, and we're going to add a white fill layer. Click OK. And in your layer mask, you're going to go in and we're going to fill that with black. So I'm going to hit X to switch to black. I'm going to hit G to select my paint bucket, and I'm filling my mask with black. And now for color fill 1, I'm going to reduce the opacity of that layer down to 15% for now. I can change that opacity. And I'm going to go into the layer mask, and I'm going to use a soft edge brush, and I'm going to paint my white onto the teeth here at a reduced opacity with a small brush. So the first thing is switch to white because I'm wanting something to show. My opacity is set at 31%. I'm going to go ahead and bump that up to about 65%, around there. And then I'm just going to start painting in the white on the teeth here. And as we can see, not a whole lot showing up. That's because of my reduced opacity. So I'm going to go ahead and bump my opacity here up to about 50% on my layer, so I can see what I'm doing. 49, 50%. Now we can see a little bit better. Not to worry, if you go over the edges, you can either undo or you can just switch to black and paint in your mask to hide. Now I realize this is over whitening, not a problem, because I can go and further reduce the opacity. Right now, having it extra bright makes it a little bit easier for me to see exactly what areas I'm working on. That side looks fine. Let's go over here to the left. Paint in. Make sure you don't miss any areas, because otherwise it'll look like their teeth is stained, and you don't want that. Alright, now I'm going to switch to black and a smaller brush, and I'm going to go in and clean up the gums. Bump my opacity up to 100% for the black, because I really want a nice clean edge around the teeth. Again, if you make mistakes, you're just masking, so it's easy to go in and fix as needed. Once you're happy with your mask, then what you'll do is go in and reduce the opacity of your layer. It's a little strong. I'm going to take this down, switch to black, and reduce the effect that I just did there. Okay. Now I'm going to go to my layer and reduce the opacity. And you can see at 0% with nothing showing through. That's what the teeth looked like originally. And then as I go through, you can see the before and after. And on some of these where you can see the natural highlights, you'll want to add those back in. And so what I would do is I would go in and once again go over those highlight areas to make them a little bit brighter, a little bit wider than the rest of the teeth. Otherwise the teeth are going to start looking flat, and that looks unnatural. And so wherever I have highlights, I want to keep those highlights, and that area of the image needs to stay brighter. Now if I zoom out, it looks a lot more natural. So before and after. I still want to reduce that opacity, I think, a little bit. I'm at about 31% now. Still a drastic difference, however not so noticeable. So when you're through with that, after you've got a nice clean mask created and you've reduced your opacities and cleaned up everything, added in your highlights on your teeth, then you're going to save this as 10D. So I'm going to go Command-Shift-S or Control-Shift-S, make sure Chapter 10 folder is selected, type in 10D, your last name, underscore whiten, make sure it's a PSD file, and click Save.